AskReddit. Medical professionals of Reddit, what is the craziest DIY treatment you've seen a patient attempt? Had a patient come into the ER with a makeshift bandage on his shin. He had fallen on rocks while hiking and left a 3-inch long 1/2-inch deep gash in his leg. I go to pull the bandage off, and as I'm peeling it away I notice the skin is completely black and there's dark chunks of fungus falling out of the wound. It looked necrotic, like it had been left alone for a week. I look at this guy like he's crazy as he tells me the wound is only a few hours old. He's pretty proud as he explains that he created a makeshift poultice by chewing up leaves and moss, mixing it with river mud, and stuffing it into his leg. That's what all the black mossy stuff was. Hint: don't do this. Finally, something I can add to it. When I was in med school on my family medicine rotation, I was sent in to see a middle-aged woman with complaints of sinus congestion. Sure enough, from the beginning I can tell she's really stopped up with her nasally voice, and my history and exam are consistent with your run-of-the-mill viral upper respiratory infection. I begin educating her on symptomatic management and the following exchange ensues. Patient: do you think it might be the flu? Me: it's possible but unlikely. It's really out of the typical season. It was June. Patient: yeah, I guess I wasn't sure it was. I've been spraying Lysol everywhere and it doesn't seem to be doing any good, and it says it kills the flu virus. Me: well, that's something that could help disinfect the house and keep the virus from spreading. Patient: I guess. I just wish it didn't burn so much. Me: what do you mean, it burns? Patient: you know, when I spray it up my nose it burns so bad. Yep. My patient thought that, since Lysol kills influenza, the best way to nip it in the bud was to flush her sinuses with it like a saline spray. It did not work, for the record. The fact that I didn't immediately fall over laughing and instead seriously counseled her against ever doing that again is still the greatest feat of composure in my entire career. Parents sneaking essential oils onto their premature baby's skin. They have central lines. These oils can wick onto the line and damage the line, cause infection, or interfere with medications. Infections in preemies can mean death within hours. Preemies have incomplete skin with much faster absorption rates than fully developed adult skin. These oils can cause burns and damage their insides. Your pyramid scheme company is not a reliable source for neonatology treatments. Please, dear God, keep oils off of any baby, but especially preemies. I'm a dental student, where we see mouths in pretty or full condition. One guy came into the emergency clinic with teeth half rotted off from decay and told me he has been putting gummy bears in the holes to make it less sharp on his tongue. Dental student here. We had a patient who declined a much needed cleaning, saying he could do it just as well at home with a scalpel. Didn't brush his teeth, but every few weeks he would go at the accumulated plaque and tartar with a scalpel. Same patient also insisted we do a procedure without local anesthetic. He was an amateur boxer and was building up his pain tolerance. He also told us he smoked 20 blunts a day and only drank Coke. We could tell. Not me, but my mom. Had a gentleman walked himself into the ED one day after he tried to give himself a vasectomy with an animal neutering kit he bought on the internet. When she asked him why, he told her that his wife wanted to have a 6th kid and it was too expensive to pay a doctor to do it, and how hard could it be to DIY. Edit: I now know that it's relatively cheap to get a vasectomy, which makes this guy even dumber. I also now know there's more than one way to neuter an animal. Thanks guys. Edit 2. I feel I should share. He tried to cut his testicles out essentially, and yes, they did indeed put them back in the sack and he could still make babies. I remember I was rolling in stomach pain and went to the doctor because my mom could not stop giving me chamomile tea all the time instead of actual medicine. It was not my stomach. I went directly to her since one of my ovaries was full of cysts and some of them exploded. Update: I took the Plan B pill, and according to the doctor those cysts were caused by the pill. I don't know what to think about that. So sugar can be used to help heal certain types of wounds. A patient I saw had missed an appointment with part of their care team where they get their bandage changed. I noticed what appeared to be oozing around the edges of the bandage. Asked my patient about it, offered to change it for them. We didn't typically do that in our clinic. They said yes. I go get fresh bandages and whatnot. Take the old one off, and it's just sticky and stringy. Picture the slow-mo shots of caramel being pulled apart, and it smelled. To be fair, most wounds smell, but this was different. I finally asked them what they used to change their bandage, since I knew it wasn't discharge. Maple syrup. They used maple syrup. My grandpa thought a leg discrepancy was causing my back pain, which was causing spasms. He put several pieces of cardboard in my shoes to try to even out my legs, which were already even. He also thinks black beans cure everything. My dad thought those pesky spasms was a pinched nerve, so he would take me to the chiropractor, his girlfriend, to get my neck cracked when it happened. Seizures, people. They were seizures. Woman I know has a dog that is epileptic, but was not willing to medicate the dog for some time. She kept trying holistic remedies, one of which she informed me about was giving the dog all natural vanilla ice cream during a seizure to stop it. You know, because you should always try to put stuff in the mouth of a seizing animal. It didn't work. The dog is on meds. Seizures are controlled now. Imagine that. When I worked in my colleague had to see a guy with an ear problem. He had something stuck in his ear and had been trying to get it out. This wasn't a new thing, he'd been trying for some time. Turned out, he had completely removed his tympanic membrane and the bits that were stuck in his ear and that he was trying to pick out with cotton buds and hair clips for his ossicles. Enjoy. I'm a doctor, but didn't see this firsthand unfortunately. However, my friend Ined saw a young 17-year-old boy that came in with personal trauma and mild blood loss. She triaged him, taking him to a room with his parents, and asked what he'd come in with. His mom turned around and said, "Go on, tell the lady what you did." He then proceeded to tell her that he tried to circumcise himself with scissors for religious reasons as he hadn't been circumcised when he was younger, but had to stop halfway due to pain. Eventually the shame had grown enough that he had to tell his parents, who immediately took him to addition. Some antibiotics and a revision by urology later, and he was able to be sent home. Another one I know slightly unrelated was an older man that came in with penile swelling. He'd used an elastic band as a makeshift cock ring, but neglected to take it off. I have no idea why. He was a little odd to say the least. A week goes by and his penis starts to look literally like an aubergine. He then comes into the surgical assessment unit, and we see him there, and is booked for surgery the next day, after we eventually picked our jaws off of the floor. He had literally killed all of the tissue in his penis to the point it was almost falling off. One full penectomy later, and he now only sits to pee. I'm not sure how he tolerated the first day. It must have hurt so much before the tissue died. We had a guy come in with an abscess on his right thumb. When I asked him what happened to his hand, he told me about his recent deep sea fishing trip and was given the responsibility of cutting the fish with an open wound in his hand. A sliver of fish got in there and became infected as it healed, so this guy gets the bright idea of doing a little DIY wound drainage by grabbing his pocket knife and cutting it open, leading to a greater infection. Still a student, audiology, but I had a very elderly patient come in with broken hearing aids. He said they were dirty, so he washed them in the sink with soap and water. Pro tip, hearing aids are not waterproof. Yes, he was warned of this when he first got the hearing aids. Thankfully he was still under warranty with the company and they were kind enough to let him slide on this one. Otherwise that would have been $4,500 down the drain. This happened when I was still a med student doing a rotation in the addition. Patient comes in and is pretty vague about his actual complaint, something about head pain, but he looks just fine sitting waiting to be seen. When I finally get to see him and ask him what actually happened, he removes the hat he was wearing, and a chunk of skin about the size of my hand literally flaps off of his skull. This guy managed to basically scalp himself, and apparently it had been like that for 3 days. According to him, it was caused by falling in his bathroom and hitting his head on the toilet. He had been previously duct taping it down or using the hat to hold the skin on, but it wasn't sticking well, and that's when his wife convinced him to come to the hospital.